has empowered people globally with his inspirational guidance and tips for self-development, but he provides his audiences with the tools that they need to achieve personal success. I'm going to have him tell you a lot more about himself because he's going to do a better job than I ever will. Ahmard Vital, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on.
I'm excited to get a chance to talk to you. You know, when we first reached out to each other, it was through Podmatch, and I wasn't sure what to expect just from kind of reading your bio. But then you started going into some of the stuff, and it just kind of blew my mind. A little bit about who you were as a little kid. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana.
One of my favorite cities in the whole world, by the way.
Apparently, mom and dad were trying to get me to the state where I was supposed to be born, which is Texas. I've been here since I was 2. So I always have to live with the idea that I can't say I'm a born Texan, but we do our best. I'm a guy from a small town in Texas with a dream and a pen in his hand who loves to write.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, and I know you went through some stuff because most of us writers have. That's where we get a lot of our writing material from. So, what was it that you had to go through that kind of sent you down this trajectory?
Life. I mean, that's a loaded question because I would say the first thing was the night my father passed the night after my 33rd birthday. That really was the starting point of what shaped me into the man I am now, because my father was retired at the time and I was always able to go to him for advice. A lot of guys out there can relate to the fact that your father doesn't know everything, yet he knows everything. And so every time when I was coming up in life, I'm living the American dream at that time, doing all of the things that I'm supposed to do. And I don't know where he's gone. And so, the argument I had outside of the hospital with God was, I told you that like all I wanted was for my father to walk out of here, and you couldn't even do that for me. Like, what's going on? And of course, the voice, the beautiful angelic voice, spoke to me and said, I am allowing your father to walk out of there. He's just going to walk out of there as you. Now go out and be who your heavenly father and your chosen father has called you to be. And that was just a trajectory where I went in, I dug deeper in my faith, I dug deeper into my profession, I dug deeper into my service and my love and just all sorts of things kind of came from that. And it's just sort of built on that. And of course, there's been more tragedies, but I think that was the starting point of a 5-step process to where I am today.
Wow. You brought tears to my eyes, man. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but man, yeah, it's amazing. He does always answer. It may not be in the time we're expecting, and it may not be the answer we're wanting, but he does always answer. Wow. Have you always been a believer, or is this something that you developed later on in life?
I've always been a believer, but I would love to be honest and transparent with your audience. Is I wasn't always very committed to the belief. I would say, like, the Bible's always been near me on a bookshelf or on a nightstand, but it's, for the most part, it's been dusty. And at a hardcore Bible-based church here in the Woodlands, Texas, it'll change you. And I'm grateful for the men and women who have poured into me over there to create the man who's even able to be on this podcast and speak with as much faith and confidence as I have now.
And then I understand that you just got back from a missions trip not too long ago. And then
So it is my second mission trip. I as I stated, I go to Grace Woodlands in the Woodlands, Texas, and I'm one of the youth ministry leaders there. And last year was the first time I went on a mission trip. So this would have been the second time going on a mission trip. We went to Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We planted a church in a nearby city last year. And this year we were doing renovations and working with the church family at the host church this year. So this year, I think we took 22 teenagers and 9 or 10 adults. We bring our little Sprinter vans, make the 12-hour road trip, and just go down there and just be a blessing to people. Sometimes you'll be at the store and just see someone and say, can I take that for you? And it's just like, how's life going for you or whatever. And sometimes people will open up and you're in the parking lot of Kroger, delivering the word, and so that's where I am now. Far more unafraid to just go out and just do it, because I say, well, what's the worst they can tell me? No. and told no my whole life. So game on, let's do this.
After your dad died, you went through a lot of stuff trying to kind of put your life back together and kind of what was it that helped you to heal from everything?
I think just a renewal of my faith, and really I'm really and truly writing about, if I was writing to myself 5 years prior, what would he tell that Ahmard Vital? What would he tell the 7-year-old Ahmard? What would he tell the 12-year-old Ahmard? And it's just like my late speaker coach, we lost him this past year, very crushing. But he taught me the concept of what do I know now that I wish I knew then. And so some of my coaching and some of my writing comes on the fact of, yes, what would I tell this person at this point in their lives? And so I developed the concept of, when I'm going into, whether it's ministry work, whether it's discipleship, whether it's mentoring, whether it's coaching, I asked God to develop in me the man I needed when I was 17, to create in me the man I need to become when I was 17. And I feel very confident and I'm on the trajectory doing that. Yet, you know how God works. It's like, hey, I'm on the right path. And it's just like, yeah, that rabbit hole's a little deeper. I need you to go a little deeper. And it's just like, I feel like I'm tapped out here. Nope.
I don't want to.
Nope. You're leaning on your own understandings and you're not going to win this one. So it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a stirring season this year. A lot of people say, 2020 was their year. And I'm like, no, it was 2022, 2023 going into 2024 for me. Because it's like, you kind of got beat up a little bit. You came out of it and now it's like, it's a new renewal, a new growth. But it's like, now that part of you needs to die off too, to grow into something even greater. And then you start realizing, like, he's never really done developing you. So you're pretty much always coming in and out of a season. And most of the times it brings at least some level of discomfort and pain, but it's the growth that comes from it. Because for us to get where we are trying to go, the old you has to die. That he is calling me to something greater. And I just need to wake up and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'll let you take lead. And yes, I may have some days where I'm literally tapped out to the bare minimum, but that's what we're called to do. And so we sign up for it, and this is where I am now.
Beautiful. What is the most powerful message that he has revealed to you through your own writing?
Really scripture. Seek first the kingdom and all these things will be added unto you. Meaning, this is not about you. This is not about you at all. Be not conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Hey, I need you renewing like all the time, which obviously can be a little scatterbrained and painful at times. And so I build a lot of this based on that, because a lot of times, I'll put down my plans, what I want to do. And yes, we should have a planning process and things that we want to do, but we got to leave room for God in there, because it's just like, we've noticed that, like, when you write down plans, it's like, you have to think, is God like looking at that like, that's all you want? Okay. Let me take it from here. And I always have that kind of jokingly feel, it's just like, whatever we're thinking, like God has so much more and so much greater for you. And I think in my writing, when I'm looking to empower, especially when I'm dealing with my young people, I'm just like, they'll tell me, like somebody says, hey, I want to lose 12 pounds. I'm like, why not 25? And it's like, well, I don't want to lose too much. I was like, that's not a problem. No one has ever said I've lost too much weight. And if you want to, gain it back, that's easy. One bad weekend and you can get it back. And so when we talk about seek first and all these things to be added on, I take that from a standpoint that God wants you to trust him, that he's going to do greater things than you can even imagine. He already said, these things I do, you'll do even greater, right? But the greater only happens when you put your trust, your love, and you put your life into his hands to be able to do great and amazing things through you, right? Through you. You don't have it. He does. And so that's one of the things I've really been working on with myself and passing that on to those whom I mentor and coach and work with through this process.
That's awesome. And I know you've got your own website, Ahmard Vital, which, if people aren't aware, there's a silent R in there. So it's AHMARDVITAL.com. And is that where people would go to find a copy of your book if they're looking for it?
Yes, and it's also on 33 different platforms. My publisher said it's at least on 33 different digital platforms. So you can choose whichever one is your favorite. And obviously ahmardvital.com is the hub to be able to find most things about me. Also, social media with Instagram and Facebook are the most active. Um,
Right.
I love connecting with new people, and you and I were talking on the way in, and just as you were calling in, someone was calling in after some work I did out of town here recently, and just I'm amazed that when I take a step back and say, okay, I feel like you're calling me to do something. And then you just say, all right, I'm here, like, use me, straight Isaiah, here I am, send me. And it's like, you get sent in there and it's just like, whoa, like, is this a Moses situation where you're only giving me like a piece of the light? Because if you give it all to me, like, I can't handle it. But the beautiful thing is even that little bit has been like, my goodness, I have 2 pages of notes of here follow-ups I need to do from being in a place for like 2.5 days.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, it's like somebody's like, did you get any rest? No, I did not get any rest. I was up at 4 in the morning and going to bed at midnight. But when we're laboring I, for the goodness of the kingdom, I know it's worth it, right? Like you go to bed knowing, you rest easy knowing that, like, I fought the fight, and I did what I'm called to do. And so it's a beautiful thing. And you're catching me at like a real transitional time right now, and I'm like, here it is. I'm all over the place, but hey, I'm here, and I'm loving where things are right now.
That's exactly what it's supposed to be all about, too. You're doing the work. Now, and speaking of doing the work, you are a speaker, a consultant, an author, a teen advocate. And when do you have time to be a sports writer?
It's funny you just said that, because I just went to a game the other day. So obviously I work with the team ministry, and the interesting thing is I had teenagers playing in a homecoming game, and I had teams on both sides. So there's some over there, some over there, and it's like, well, what team are you rooting for? And I'm like, I'm not rooting for neither of you. I know all of these coaches. I love you all. I'm not choosing. But what was interesting is that our teams are so close and connected that one side came over to sit with the other side, and they sat together as one big group, like 20 plus. And they're in the stands doing their thing and just loving on people, just really almost in like almost feeling like they were in a worship while they were there. So I do have time to, so when I went to go see them, I was just like, well, I might as well do something for Dave Campbell's Texas football while I'm here as well. Because that's where I got my start from. My start came from the fact that I've been a sports writer since I was 14 years old. I
Wow.
mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it's one big fraternity. Back in the day, we used to call ourselves the Texas High School Football Media Mafia. It was like 20 of us across the state. And so even though I'm not regularly doing it like those guys do, like, I'm still like a member. I'm still part of this. And so everything I do is still going to come back to some point. It's always going to come down to young people, and sports is going to be involved. I just got through speaking to an entire athletic department, and right after I went and spoke to 350 Texas officials, right? Because I'm still at heart a jock with a pen in my hand. That's what I am. I don't try to hide that. I'm still a dude who loves the smell of a locker room. I still love the idea of coming out of a tunnel and going into battle. That's who I am. I'm just taking the word with me. I'm taking my sword with me. I'm taking my shield with me. So that's just the only difference. But I'm probably going to be a sports writer until it's time for me to leave, like, permanently. That's just where it is. So yes, do I have time? I don't. I just make it.
Nice. You have a particular shirt on your website that I know I'm going to end up getting. It says the words game changer on it. And now, talking about your sports writing and talking about what it is that you're doing with your life, this is definitely kind of a double meaning in so many ways. I love that. But tell me about your books, because you've got more than one. You've done some pretty cool stuff with your time when you have the time.
Well, I will always find time to write. That goes without question because I get paid to write, but also I use writing as a way of, decompressing. I use it for a way to just get away. So there's a multiple me with a pen in my hand. I mean, if I flip my camera around right now, you'd see that there's probably 75 composition books. Um, and I buy 20 every year, even if I don't need them, because I just use them that much.
Wow.
So I'm kind of known as the guy I'm the journal guy kind of guy. So my first book was in 2011 titled Awaken the Baller Within. That's when I really sort of solidified myself as, that book was there's a media gentleman who tabbed that as the athlete's life manual, because I came out of a really bad relationship, so my mind was all over the place. I was depressed, and of course I came into spiritual and personal development, hired a mentor and these things like that. And then I was like, okay, so I got this new spiritual development, but I'm also a jock with a pen in my hand. How do I merge the two? So I did the same thing Napoleon Hill did with Think and Grow Rich. I created a book that was based on interviewing top athletes over like a 3-year span. And so the same way he wrote Think and Grow Rich, I wrote Awaken the Baller Within just as a manual for athletes. But when you open the book up, you realize that sports is only the metaphor for life, which is what I lean in on a lot now, since I don't do as much sports, but sports is still a metaphor for life, because I encourage many people, if they have young children, like, please, please, please put them in sports. Well, what if they're not good? Keep them in there anyway. And that's another conversation for a whole other podcast. But Awaken the Baller Within was giving the mindset that it takes to be successful. You're scoring touchdowns, making tackles, throwing, great Hail Mary passes. What is the mindset that creates the success on the field? Because we know a lot of people who are talented and they're not doing well in life. They have all the talent in the world. They have all the skills, yet they can't get their mind together enough to be able to bring those skills together in a more suitable way. And so Awaken the Baller Within focused on the idea of getting that part of it taken care of, because I knew a lot of guys who are very talented who are casualties today, and I knew guys who were not as talented, but they had the right mindset, who are extremely successful today. And so all of my guys are extremely successful. All the guys I interviewed for that book, they're all successful. Fathers, husbands, entrepreneurs. Some of them are still in the NFL. And some of them didn't make it to the end. Engineers. I'm talking actors. Like, we got construction managers. Like, we got the receipts on what these guys are doing is amazing. That was the book that kind of catapulted me into things. And of course, I followed that one up in 2019 with I Am More Than Enough. 3 ways to overcome the fear of your own reflection. That one came out of the death of my father as well, from the standpoint that, like, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? A lot of people dread looking at themselves in the mirror, and not just from a physical standpoint. Some people look in there and just say, like, I'm just a bad and ugly person. And you weren't created that way. So my question is, like in Genesis, who told you that? Who told you that you were ugly, undeserving, not worthy of love, of acceptance, of whatever? Like, who told you that? Right? And whoever told you that lied to you. And so I Am More Than Enough focuses a lot on who you see in the mirror and accepting who's in the mirror. Like, maybe you've made some mistakes. I don't know. Haven't all of us? Yes, we all fall short. We all sin. But have you gone through the process of, like, truly saying, like, I am still a child of God, yet I make mistakes, possibly daily? Well, you need to accept that. But you also need to accept the fact that maybe, just maybe, you can make a couple of changes. So we focus on image, accepting yourself, and changes that need to be made. And so that was a quick read, but it gets to the heart of what a lot of people are dealing with, especially coming out of this pandemic or whatever you want to call it at this point in time. I don't even know what to call it anymore. But that whole time where, mental, like, that's when everyone starts saying, oh, this mental health thing is a real thing. It's been a real thing. It's just, it was exacerbated because you told everyone to go into a cocoon and not talk to anybody except through a computer screen like this. That's not how humans interact. And regardless of where anyone stands on the cultural, social, political aisle of how that was handled, we still at the end of the day can agree that like people need people,
Yeah.
right? And at some point in time, you got to weigh some risk, because somewhere through that process, I was just like, look, I understand. I understand. And I'm not saying that this isn't dangerous or whatever. It's like, but you know what? I need a hug. I need a hug and I need one now.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the gym and we're all spaced apart. And there was a woman next to me and I didn't know her. She didn't know me. And I was just like, how you doing? She's like, how you doing? And she walked up on me. I was like, are we good? Are you good with this? She's like, yes. And we gave each other a hug without even knowing each other for 7 seconds. Cause it was like, we were yearning for this. Cause you notice when things opened back up, how people were just like, oh my goodness, I feel like I haven't seen anyone in forever.
Yeah.
And so I am more than enough really focuses on the idea of knowing that you need a community and knowing that, man, we really do need each other, right? And sometimes we have to make some calculated cost to make sure that that happens, because sitting in your little silos and your little bunkers and waving to people through FaceTime and Zoom is not going to get life done correctly. It's just not. Yeah. And so obviously that, and then of course the latest book, the one that came out this past year, January 2023, is now what? 5 Steps to Get Up and Create the Most of Life. This was written in the summer of 2020, so you can understand how charged up I was about what I just said, and that went into the book. Now, what? From the standpoint that like you have full control over your life. No one owes you anything. You deserve nothing. You earn everything, right? No one is supposed to hand you anything. You provide useful service, you get compensated for it. You create something, people want it from you, then you get the resources from that. You have a skill, you utilize it, somebody pays for your time to do such. And this book really looks at the idea of taking all that you have that's good and putting it in a way that is going to be, usable to others, and transitioning from one thing that you're doing to another thing. So this is for people who maybe went through a bad divorce, someone lost a whole bunch, somebody's been in and out of the criminal justice system, and it's just like, okay, I'm going to use a choice word, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but like you look around and say, my life kind of sucks right now. Like it's pretty bad. So I say, okay, let's sift through that pile of dirty clothes. Let's sift through that pile of ashes. Let's see if we can find a dollar bill in there. Let's see if we can find a diamond in there. Let's see if we can find anything that makes you wake up and say, I have a bit of at least a small chance to be able to make it. All I want is the percentage to be higher than 0, and we can work with that. And so this takes you on 5 steps to be able to rebuild your life in a way when you want to make major transitional changes. First you got to accept the fact that like, I got a mess over there. There's a fire in the kitchen. There's a pile of dirty clothes, and there's a bunch of kids in the other room screaming they hate me. Pretty bad in here. Okay, where's the good part of this? Is there anything good in here? Well, at least my kids haven't burnt the whole house down. They just burnt down, the living room and the kitchen. Cool. All right. At least I have a washing machine to be able to clean the dirty clothes. Boom. We find the wins wherever they are. They're small, but they're enough for you to not be like, this thing called life is not working and not worth it. And so, we reflect, then we seek. What do we need? What do we need? We reflect, we decide, we plan, we seek, we act. All of these things come together to be able to bring the change you need in your life. Because so many times people throw in the towel before they can actually just pull out, I know it's old school and I know everyone wants to use the phone, but just pull out an old pen and pad, an old legal pad. The yellow ones are a little bit better. I like the yellow ones because they do something to your eyes. And just write down everything that is wrong with your life, all of it, or that you perceive is wrong with your life. Just put it on down there. And we have a process where we sift through all of that and we find the blessing that was within every wrong thing that you think is going on in your life. And so now what helps you sift through that and unpackage this thing we have called life.
Wow. Ahmard, you are such a powerful speaker. You're so passionate. I'm so glad you're doing what it is you're doing, because I know that working with the youth out there, you are giving these kids a hope for a better future, because a lot of them wouldn't necessarily have direction or that hope without you. You are such an awesome human being. God has done some amazing things through you. I hope you understand that. I hope you're proud of yourself. It's
I thank you for that. Much appreciated. I wish I could say it was me. It's not. I mean, it's me talking to my father daily and saying, what is it that you're calling me to do? And every point in my life, I realized that the common denominator was young adults, youth, you know, in schools, in sports, in coaching, and all of these different things, even in nonprofits. It always came back to that. I was like, all right, I get it. The blessings have come in this way. So game on. What do you want me to do? And so I do live with a level of intensity. And I think it comes from the idea that I'm not going to say it's guilt, but I feel like I threw so many years away just doing so much dumb stuff. Right. like I mean, just my college years, my post-college years, the crazy relationships I've been in. And it's just like, dude, like get it together. And it's just like, so now it's like, I think the compensation for it is it's just like I'm intense about everything. I've heard that a lot. It's just like, why are you so intense? I was like, because I love life and I love where God has taken a guy like myself and put him in this spot, knowing I don't deserve it. Knowing absolutely I don't deserve it. Yet here we are. And it's just like, all right, since I don't deserve it, let me make the most of it. And the quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. And my intensity is what is my thing. So it's just like, let's go. Let's run through these walls. Let me take some good young people with me. Let me teach them the game. And let's make something happen so that we have a more righteous, a more beautiful future with the generations who are behind us, because the enemy doesn't want me. Well, he kind of does. But what he really wants is the kids. So the thing is to stop me from pouring into them, because they can fight the battles I cannot. They're the ones in the schools. They're the ones at the mall. They're the ones at these different places. They're the ones who are going to influence the future even more so than I can. So my job is to gear them up, armor them up every day to be able to go out and fight them battles. So that's why I'm intense, because I want to see society thrive. I want to see a revival. I want to see, love, marriages, children, businesses, prosperity, all this stuff. I want to see wins. I like being around winners, right? I don't like, long faces. I want people out there getting it, to being able to make choices in their life and do what they want to do, not so much what they have to do. Do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. And I want them to be able to have those options. I don't want them living just enough. Like, I want them to live in abundance, because that's what the word says, press down, shaking down, but the cup runneth over. I want them running over to where they can do more good for the world than even I can do. I want them to be 10 times more successful than I can ever become. And I'm not done yet. I got a lot more bullets left, and I want to be extremely successful. And I want them to surpass me many times over.
So, Ahmad, this is going to be my last question, and we're going to end the episode with your answer. But what is one thing that you truly love about yourself that's not related to your physical appearance?
My willingness to serve. My willingness to give to others, knowing that what I'm sharing with them can make their lives better, without looking for any direct compensation from that said person. The fact that I'm looking to serve first before anything. That's what I would think is what is the greatest thing that I feel like I'm working with today.
If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, please make sure you check out the episode description. You'll find links there on how you can learn more about this guest, links to connect with social media, and how to support the podcast. Remember, I don't get paid to do this. My boss is a bit tight-fisted, but I can say that. I work for myself.